Ah, yes! Adventure Time, my favorite show! Can't wait to see what episode's on this time! Zzz. Aww, TV exploded. If only there was another way to waste my time. Maybe I'll make a stat distribution guide for Bit Heroes. Yeah, that sounds fun. Alright everybody, short tangent before I begin. I am in college, so these videos will probably be pretty short and poorly edited, so this is about the worst you're gonna get. But anyways, so let's start talking about stat distribution. So when I first joined Bit Heroes, one of the questions nagging in the back of my head was, how should I distribute my stats? Well, things have changed a lot since then, so it'll be actually a little more complicated than it was back then. And I will hope to save you all the effort of actually going through and observing the top players and begging people to explain this to you. So, alrighty. So to begin with, if you're a starting player, this doesn't matter quite as much to you yet. You're gonna re-roll your stats somewhere along the line, most likely, and at the start of a game, really hands down, you're gonna want to be a DPS. It progresses you much faster. It's only really later in the game, once you unlock grade 1 and 2, that you start to switch to your actual permanent class, which will probably be, well, it's going to be tank or DPS, and then a variation of those. So I guess the first topic is, well, should I become a tank or should I become a DPS? Well, long story short, you want about 2 and 5 people to be a tank, and the rest of the 3 should be a DPS. Now, of course, that's not the way it works, so tanks have a few extra perks here, and that they're very popular. And, of course, you get to use yourself as a tank, which is a bonus. But yeah, tanks are really rare nowadays, so, I mean, yeah, if you become a tank, we love you. We absolutely love you. Now, the unfortunate thing is that becoming a tank really requires a good pet and accessory, so you're going to have to get a little bit lucky there. My brother was really lucky. I'm not sure if he's around right now. Let me check. Okay, I'm wasting your time, aren't I? Come on, I gotta find this guy. I said his name. So yeah, really, that's probably going to be your main deciding factor, is that when you do get a pet and accessory, and this is a pet, this is an accessory, if they're really good ones, you're probably going to want to become one of the 2 variations of tanks. Now, the advantage of a DPS is that you're going to progress the game a little bit faster, it's a little bit funner in most people's opinions, and you're better at a few different things. Tanks, typically, they're much better at trials and invasions and sometimes even raids if you're a good tank. But most of the other things you're going to want to be a DPS, hands down. But yeah, as a tank, you just have a lot of advantages, but again, you got to be lucky. So, alright. Hopefully you want to know if you should want to become a tank or a DPS. Now, let's talk about the 2 different variations in stat distributions of tanks. So in tanks, we've got 2 primary stat distributions. The first guy is going to go 100% stamina, up until you get about 1,000, and then you're going to want to start becoming the power stamina build. But also, just note that in Raid 4 this is going to be changed a little bit, so you're probably going to want about 1,001 or 1,200 if you're going to be going for that kind of build. Now, of course, there's the other build, which includes a balance between stamina and power. Now, this tank I deem the healer tank. So the healer tank's goal is essentially to have higher health efficiency by means of a pet. So essentially, they're going to want to pour everything into power and stamina, about equally, if not a little bit more in stamina, nothing into agility for any tank, never any agility. All your stat points go into stamina. And even with the balance, the healer tank, you're probably going to want to put all your stats into stamina and just use your items to boost your power. But anyways, so you're going to get a pet. It's going to, hopefully, is heal. You want to heal when hit pet or Gemmy, and that will essentially heal up your team. So also you can get Boyga, but yeah, you know what I mean. So anyways, yeah, so those are the 2 different tank options right there. The healer tank is becoming more and more popular, particularly because once you reach a certain point in stamina, it's really not quite as useful. And personally, I have 2 tanks that are just 100% stamina, and they don't allow me, even though they're some of the best builds in the game, they aren't adequate to do raid 3 heroic, versus someone who puts an equal amount into power and stamina at their point in time. I could easily get by on raid 3 heroic. So keep that in mind as you get further on. Trying to push through isn't going to be as much advantageous to you as just going that equal amount. But yeah, if you're going to be a tank, yeah, it doesn't hurt to just put everything into stamina and work your power through your items. And don't touch agility. Okay, so I've talked at length about that. Let's talk about DPS now. So we've talked about the advantages of being a DPS, but let's actually talk about the 3 different variations of DPS classes. So this all lies in how you put your skill points in agility and power. First of all, no skill points in stamina, alright? Just leave this buddy alone. Use your items to boost him up to a decent amount, that way you don't get one hit killed like I used to be all the time. It's not very pleasant. I'm just going to keep this interface open. So it all lies in how you put your stat points into this and this. Now you might be wondering, oh well, Link, I've thought about this mathematically, and an equal amount is best, right? Well, actually, they added something interesting into the game called normalization a while back. And so essentially what normalization does is it makes it so that it doesn't matter your distribution of agility and power. So essentially, and your turns are based off that in order to get you an equal amount. So it doesn't matter how much you put into any of these. That's the abridged version of it. Your DPS, your damage per turn, will always be the same. So really, it's just minor advantage. Well, actually not minor. It's just advantages in terms of how you distribute this, which I will go into detail on right now. So really, again, so we've got the distributions. We've got the balanced distribution, which is equal in this and equal in that. Agility and power. Then we've got the power build, which is 3 to 4 times power for every one of the agility, and the speed build, which is 3 to 4 times agility of power. And each of these has their own advantage and disadvantage, and I'll go over them here in a second, and then I'll give my recommendations on how many people should become that and that. You can just roll a die, or you can just look at the advantages, disadvantages, and choose for yourself. I'm personally a speed build, but again, I'll talk about this in a little bit. Alright, so what are the advantages and disadvantages of a speed build? So with speed, you have more maneuverability. So essentially, you have more time to react to sudden tactic changes in battle. So let's say, oh snap, your tank just died. Well, if you're a power build, well, okay, so if you're a speed build, you can easily switch him out, so that way, your next guy doesn't die immediately. The other thing is you have very high consistency. So if I have 5% dual strike, it doesn't matter that much to me because it's going to end up coming out in the fight. I can rely on it. So it's not as luck-based for people that are a speed build. So they can go into a battle and be like, I know I can do this, I'm just going to auto it. It's really, really nice personally, and it's come to my advantage a lot. The other really nice thing is that you have more precise killing. So you don't really overkill with a speed build because you're always doing not too much damage. So really every hit you're making counts 100% for, or 90% for what that hit is actually doing, which is really, really nice. So you just get less overkill, your damage is worth more essentially. The other really nice thing is that you have faster movement, therefore you have a theoretical 1-turn advantage. You are technically always a few turns, at least 1 turn ahead of your opponent, which is super nice because, you get that advantage. Now, some of the downsides of the speed class essentially reflect the upsides of the damage class. So let's go ahead and look at the advantage of putting all your stat points into power and essentially, trying to get it to be 3 to 4 times as much as agility. And by 3 to 4 times as much, I mean total stats, not necessarily what stat points you put in. Again, all stat points in the power build go to power, all stat points in the speed go to speed. Okay, so the advantages of the damage build are really interesting. So the first one is that your SP is worth significantly more. This is because it takes you longer to store up that SP, and when you actually use it, you're doing significantly more damage. So essentially, with me, it doesn't really matter. I can store up a lot of SP, but that will just go away just like that during a boss. But for a power build, you're saving that up. It's worth a ton. You're going to last half, if not the full boss battle with that SP. It is going to deal much more damage than what my wimpy SP is doing. So SP becomes more meaningless with this. It becomes, you can use it more often with speed build, but it's not worth as much as it is with a power build, which is why a power build is really, really good for raids. The other really nice thing is that if you have a power build, well, this might be a bad thing, is that your lucky events are worth quite more. So let's say you get a crit and an empower on top of each other. With a speed build, well, I mean, that doesn't do much, but with a power build, that's just going to instantly annihilate whatever you're hitting, and that's really nice. So luck is worth a lot more with a power build. So if you're relying on that, this is a good guy for you. If you're relying on luck to get past that next boss in that zone, here you go. The other really nice thing is that the power build actually counters heal when hit pets. So let's say you're fighting some crazy potato fella. I don't even see any potato fellows in here. But let's say we have a potato fella and he's got like a heal on hit pet and he's right here and I'm like, kablam, kablam, kablam with my speed build. Well, he has all of a sudden a really high chance that he's healed several times there. But let's say you're the power build and you're over here just waiting, and then and you go back. Well, he's only had one chance to actually heal. So the power build really counters heal when hit pets. It's really good against those guys. Also, it's really, really good with heal when hit pets. Now, of course, you're not going to be hit quite as much when you're having a DPS build as a stamina build, but that still happens. And so it's really nice to get that little extra bonus if you have a legendary pet. And so yeah, that's the really nice thing. Now, for the downsides of both the builds, I'm just going to run through them really quickly because technically we went over them and discussing the advantages. The downsides of the speed build are that your SP is worth less. When you're lucky, it's worth less. It's terrible against heal when hit pets, and it's not as useful with heal when hit pets. So there's that. With damage builds, so power builds, your downsides are you have less maneuverability, you're lower consistency, lots of damage lost in overkill, and you have slower movements giving you a theoretical one-turn disadvantage. Alright, it looks like I forgot to mention two things in my recording. So those two are, with the balanced build, just assume it's the best of both worlds, and I mean the worst of both worlds too. So it's sort of that balance between the goodness of the speed build and the goodness of the bad of the power build. In regards to how many you should, if you're going to roll a die on this to figure out what you should be, I personally recommend, so 1 in 6 go for the speed build, 1 in 6 go for the balanced build, and 4 and 6, so that's 2 and 3, go for the damage build. And that's because you have 5 people in a raid, you're going to want one person balance their speed to switch them out, and you're going to want the rest to be power builds to build up stuff. I think that's about all for today. If you guys have any questions, please let me know below. I will hopefully be making more build guides. This is just stats distribution. This is the most basic stuff. It's going to get really complicated later on because this game just has complex math. If you found this video helpful, please leave a like. If you didn't find it helpful, please leave a dislike. And until next time, I hope you all have an amazing day. See you next time.